Welcome to twoquestions.tv. My guest today is Lara Alexiou, and we're talking about mastering the self. Welcome to twoquestions.tv. I'm Susan Baroncini-Moe. Joining me today is Lara Alexiou, who has been helping people transform their lives through the Eastern healing arts since 2003. She owns Steamtown Yoga, teaches wellness and abundance workshops nationwide, and coaches other studio owners to create thriving businesses. She's also the author of this book, Become the Architect of Your Body, Mind, and Soul. Hi, Lara. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you, Susan.
I'm enjoying your background. I love your background.
I tried to make it, sort of interesting, but not too distracting. I'm actually in my home.
It's beautiful. I want a brick wall like that. I have a brick fireplace like that, but I can't sit in front. It's not the same. All right. Well, back to the interview. I loved your book because I found so many moments of teaching in it. And I loved the one about saying yes, because I'd never really put it into words for myself, but yes, saying yes removes resistance and transforms stressful experiences. So for our audience members who have not yet read the book and are perhaps waiting for it to arrive in their doorstep, could you explain a little bit about why it's true that saying yes removes resistance?
Yes. There we go. We'll start with the yes.
Yes.
What happens is so often we don't even realize, we kind of know it because we've heard it before and it's not a new idea, that we often bring the resistance to a situation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes a lot of situations in life, I'm really always trying to remind my students in class and myself as well, that life happens one day at a time. It's all the little things. It's not moving from one big thing to another big thing to another big thing. It's the little decisions that we make on a daily basis that put our lives together. Right. And within that day to day, either create a lot of difficulties or create ease. And we bring a lot of the difficulty by bringing that resistance. And that resistance forms with a no. No, I don't want that. No, I don't like that. No, I can't do that. No, it's not my preference. No, 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 no. And we might think that we're very justified in the no, but often we can say yes. That's often not true. Often we can say yes. There's usually a yes in there somewhere with family, especially even in work situations. How is there a way to say yes to open a door, to open a door, to open a conversation from there, that you don't have to say yes to everything, but a no immediately just shuts everything down. And often we find that people aren't asking anything that great, that demanding. Now, I know there are always situations that are, but if you're getting asked a situation like that, you're not getting blindsided by that. That big question that we might see as a big question is actually a culmination of a lot of things that you probably saw coming and a lot of things that happened up to that time. So how can we just say yes in our day-to-day to make things easier and to start opening that door?
Yeah. I noticed after I read that part in your book, I sort of paid attention to the rest of my day, and I realized that things that I was likely to say no to were really to convenience me, to things that I just was a little lazy about. And so when I started saying yes, I realized I was a little more active, I was moving more, and it was really more like, oh, I don't really want to do that because I don't want to get up, or, oh, I don't want to do that because it requires effort for me. And I realized I was just holding back that part of myself from other people, and that seemed dumb.
Yes. So and sometimes people are just asking for permission. Sometimes they're asking for a yes for something and they're willing to go do it. And we immediately think, oh, if I say yes, I think this, I'm sure not the only one. I think, what am I getting myself into?
Yes.
So I'll just say, because I don't want to even get into that. But what I'm thinking that yes means and what they're thinking that yes means are two different things. And it can bring such joy, and it can really allow that person to go, oh, great, because here are all the ideas. Here's the work I already did. Here's the secret day I already planned. It's going to be so fun. They've already done a lot of that work when we think, oh, what does this mean for me? It eases those relationships. And you do then start to realize wow, like this is actually fun. I'm actually having fun. You start to approach a situation from that ease and really from that other person's happiness, which
Yeah.
is really reflective then to us and our situation, how we're feeling and how we approach the situation.
It's interesting. I also think that there are times when, and I was noticing in your book that you talked about things like when a family member asks, do you want ice cream? And you might be inclined to say, no, I'm on a diet, or no, I'm doing this thing, or I'm not eating dairy right now, or whatever. And there are times when you have to say no, like allergies, obviously, but,
Right.
but sometimes I read that and I thought, oh, that could be a little bit of a power struggle going on, that if you let go of that, the power struggle goes away.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if I can, a quick story about
Sure.
that I didn't put in the book. This came from one of my teachers, one of my meditation teachers, and sort of then from his teacher. Spent a lot of time in monasteries. I believe in China is where he was, and he was talking to some of the monks, interviewing the monks, and the very natural question is, "Are you a vegetarian?" It came up, and the monk said, "Yes, I am mostly a vegetarian." And that seemed like an odd question. It really seemed like a yes or no,
It
especially
does.
coming from a monk who's dedicated his life to these particular practices. And the monk said, well, this is the situation. He says, I'm a vegetarian, except once a year, I return to my home village and I visit my mother. And inevitably, my mother makes me beef stew. And he says it would do more harm to her and to their relationship to say, Mom, I can't eat this beef stew. I'm a monk, I'm vegetarian. I tell you this every year. He's like, why am I going to get into that? I go home one year and I eat it, and whatever's in it, it doesn't matter. It's better to keep the relationship. And then when I come back for the rest of the year, I'm a vegetarian, but I have to look at as a monk, what's going to do the least amount of harm. And I felt like, wow, if he can make that decision, and he's living on a mountain and he's dedicated his life and he's been there for however long, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Like, clearly when I get together with my mother, my mother-in-law, or whoever else, I can say yes to something, assuming that, my throat's not going to swell up and it's going to be a big problem. And there are, like you said, there are things, but otherwise, like, isn't there a way that we can let go of that and think, what kind of control am I holding on to? Does it really matter? And does it add to the situation, or does it detract? Is it going to add to the day, or is it going to detract? And when we look back on our lives, it's the yeses that we look back on and we're glad we did, even if we're like, oh man, do you remember that disaster? Well, it makes a good story, right? It makes a better story at the end of our day and at the end of our lives than, well, I really never said yes to anything, so I don't have any of those stories.
Yeah. It's enlightening, really. I mean, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I do think it's also a setting aside of the ego, because sometimes when we say no, again, it's a wish to be seen. I'm saying no because I want you to see me. I want you to respect me. I want you to, like the vegetarian story.
Yes.
When I was in college, I was a vegetarian. I went vegan for a while and couldn't do it. So, but I was a vegetarian. I've been all forms of vegetarian, ovo-lacto, pescatarian, everything, the gamut. But I remember coming home and saying, I'm vegetarian now, Mom. And she didn't know what to do with that. It was before it was white. It was really, a long time ago. So, I remember she didn't really know what that meant. She didn't know what to do with it, but I just wanted her to see that. I wanted her to see me and respect that about me. And it's an ego thing. And so I think you can set that aside. I feel like, honestly, you and I could do about 10 different interviews, because this book it's a short book, but it has such wisdom in it. There was something else in the book that I resonated. There were many things, but one of the other things you said the most toxic substances can become the strongest sources of energy when used correctly. And you said a weakness is only a weakness when it masters us instead of us mastering it. And you used stubborn versus determined as an example. And I wonder how much of using weaknesses as strengths is kind of this, like, a perspective shift. And how do we accomplish that transformation to mastering those weaknesses?
Oh, wow. That is such a great question. And I love hearing you quote that book back to me. That's awesome. Thanks for that too. So another situation or emotion perhaps I'll share is, anxiety. I hear it from a lot of students. I myself would tell you that I do have a lot of anxiety, and I talk about that in the book. And that's something that if we let that really take hold, we'll never get out and do anything. So that's something that really became important to me, to how can I turn this around? How can I use it to get me moving? So as far as people starting to more practically find those things, I think part of it is finding the triggers, finding what it is that brings up, we'll use that word resistance again, what is it that doesn't make you say yes to the day and jump up? Finding what are those things that make you contract and say no, and maybe sweaty palms, maybe heartbeats, maybe accelerating, or maybe just bringing things to a stop. Sometimes there are things in our life that just bring us to a stop, and we have to look at that and say, okay, like what's happening here, and it's no longer a strength when we're stagnating because of that. And first recognize that. And then emotions, and even chemically in the brain, it's like going on a roller coaster, and people who love roller coasters are going to love it, and they're going to scream, it's going to be fun, and they get filled with endorphins. And the people who hate it go on that same exact ride, have that same exact timing and experience of the ups and downs and loop-de-loops, and their system is drenched with all these awful toxic chemicals. Yeah. So it's that perspective of having that same thing and saying, okay, how can I turn this around? It's fuel either way. Like if you have gunpowder, are you going to make bullets and shoot people? I'm sorry for that extreme example. Or are you going to make fireworks? It's the same substance. And how can you start to move it around? So I think it's feeling it in your body. It's willing to just sit with those feelings and say, okay, I don't like this. This is making me uncomfortable. Maybe it's making me anxious. Maybe even physical things. Okay, I recognize as I do this, my throat's tightening. I don't want to have this conversation. Notice those things, really sit with that and root yourself down. I'm a big fan of like physically standing on 2 feet, really rooting yourself down when you feel that happening, and allowing that feeling to transform, owning that feeling. And once you own it, then you have more power to start to transform it. And it does take time. It's not like just one time you'll be like, oh yes, I get it. But sometimes when we feel those feelings, those resistance, we really want to just shove it under the table. We don't like those feelings. They're uncomfortable. So we say, okay, you know what? I'm not ever going to put myself in a situation that does that to me. I don't ever want to face that. We kind of scoop it under the rug a little bit. And I really think the first part is just, opening it right up and saying, okay, this is it. There's a little bit of enough is enough, and let's look at this head on. And if I own it and I really feel that in my body, because that's, we run those emotions through our system, they manifest in that way. Like then we can start to transform them. It's really like looking anything just right in the eye, seeing the truth of it, but then knowing that the truth is the perspective. And when you look at something also, turn that look around a little bit and start to find a new way. But if we don't look right at it, we're never going to have that control.
Yeah. I love it. Like I said, I feel like we could have 10 different interviews just about this book. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Would you like to join me for the after show?
I would love to. How fun.
Awesome.
How casual, the after show.
Yes, the casual fun after show. All right, viewers, if you would like to join us for the after show, come with us. We're going over to 2questions.tv. That's our URL. It's the only place you can find the after show. So you have to go over there. Come with us. We'll see you over there. And in the meantime, here is the book. We're going to have links down below so you can get your copy on Amazon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.